Just hanging out in the shade.
Oh, just
dark.
Looking at my truck.
Yeah. Got our scrap pile of metal.
Yeah. Scrap pile of metal.
Oh yeah, the tow rig. I don't think they know about the tow rig. Eventually.
It's been in the background.
Right? Random things. So.
It's big and black, and that's what we like.
So what are we doing today? I guess you guys can see the hoist and all that going on in the back, but yeah, we are pulling the motor out of this car. Cut real quick to the clip of why we're doing it. Yeah, after the last event, on the drive home, I noticed the car started to tick, and yeah, it was like low on power-ish, and it took me a while to figure out what was wrong, but yeah, the last cylinder 6, is low on compression, so we decided to go ahead and start pulling this thing. So throughout the week, I went ahead and disassembled stuff, and Justin and Nick are here today to help me get this thing out of the car. So yeah, we got it on the hoist, ready to come out. Everything else is good. Nick just finished the shifter. We got all the stuff underneath the car. And that's really it. We're gonna pull this thing apart, see what's actually broken inside. We'll show you guys when we get there. And yeah, we'll see what we'll have to do to get it back up and running. So yeah. So the motor's out. I don't know how much we time-lapsed because the GoPro stopped and we didn't hit start again when we started lifting the motor out. But it's out. And the trans is over there. Big discovery. You want to break the news and make me sound like an ass carried idiot?
Well, you wouldn't have showed it earlier, but... so we pulled the motor out, and the EGR cooler housing was missing 3 bolts. And you can see it only had this much gasket left, so it had blown out, which is why it sounded like an exhaust leak. So
we don't really know.
He's gonna sleep on it.
Yeah, what to actually do, because the motor's out. We were gonna separate, the head and the block and take a look what's inside. But at this point, it could just have been an exhaust leak. So anyways, that's where we're at. Yeah, so anyways, that's where we're at. We're also taking a look at my clutch. It was slipping, and you've seen us complain about it, or I've complained about it. A lot of hot spots. Clutch disc is, I'll hold that thing up.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
The pressure plate.
Pressure plate's cool.
And this has a lot more wear than it should.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm not mad that I need a new clutch, but yeah. I'm trying to figure out why it was slipping. Yeah, what's the next plan?
What I would do, I'd say buy a scope, look in the cylinder, make sure it's fine, and put it back together. But,
yeah, I mean, since it's out and it is pretty oily, I'm gonna go ahead and replace all these seals once again on another year, and hopefully it doesn't leak as much as it did. Yeah.
It's only gonna go until May, right? That's the whole plan?
Possibly get a scope so I can figure out what's up and see if it's safe enough just to throw everything back together and send it. Yeah, it only has to go for another 6 months before we plan a motor swap. So yeah, that's where we're at, and we're just gonna keep going and tearing this thing down. Alright guys, it's been about a week since we pulled the motor. I did a little bit of work throughout the week. I power washed the motor and the trans, so let's take a quick look at that. It's not the cleanest, but I got most of the gunk off, and I got the timing cover off so that way I can kind of see where the oil leaks are coming from. From what I could tell, I see a little bit of oil dripping down, so that's why we're replacing the cam seals, and the oil pump seal looks good. But the crank seal, there is a little bit of oil underneath it. I didn't clean underneath the timing cover because I wanted to check all this stuff out. So that's what I have today. Those are the parts that I have now. 2 cam seals from Toyota. I had a Felpro crank seal and the EGR gasket that blew out that I need to replace. So there's that. Plus new valve cover gaskets and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. But first, I got my laptop here. Got my laptop here, and I bought this scope from Amazon, right? It was in USB to the laptop, and you can kind of see what's going on down there. On the laptop, I can kind of see what my piston is. Yeah, that's a little bit of water because I did power wash and you did get a little bit of water inside the cylinders. But yeah, I pretty much checked the walls, by rotating this camera, and it's really tough because the cord is stiff. Everything looks good for the most part, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the seals that I need to replace. And yeah, guys, follow along. Alright, so I am done with the motor. We got all the seals changed out and everything's tight, everything's torqued down. EGR, cooler's back on, valve covers are back on. I don't know if you noticed, but I took out the top, they call it a gasket, but it covers the spark plugs and these plugs, right? And the internet, or the other 7M guys do, is when that gasket blows out, and which mine is I RTV'd, but I let the RTV cure for a little bit while I did the valve covers, and then I went ahead and torqued down those plugs. Did the timing belt, so that's all good. Everything is how I like it, ready to go back into the motor. I have one more belt to put on, 2 more actually, but we'll do those when the motor goes back into the car. Well, what I didn't capture on the time lapse was that I went around and I double checked all like the intake manifold bolts and make sure that everything was tight. And yeah, there was a couple that I could turn like a half turn. So everything is good to go now. What's left is I have the trans. So in the trans, I have the input shaft seal because I was leaking. I thought it was the rear main, but it looks like it was the trans because it was oily down there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop off the bell housing and get to the input shaft and change out the seal that's behind this cover. So hopefully that'll do it. They said, the internet said, that if it's leaking, it's probably because the bearing is bad, but I'm just gonna chance it and throw in a seal. I'm just hoping that it'll get by for like another 6 months or so. So that's the plan. In the engine bay, you can see that it's kind of dirty, so I'm gonna go ahead and get it out into the driveway and give this thing a quick power wash. At the same time, the X7 rack that we picked up from the junkyard is gonna get swapped back out with the X8 rack I had because of how heavy the power steering was. Nothing is really leaking from the rack, but I have a feeling that the rack itself is just bad, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap back my X8 rack later today and do that at the same time when I power wash everything. So I'm gonna take a quick break and we'll get back to it.